Hi, Daniel.
Hi, Jenny. How are you?
I'm well. Thanks for joining me today. I'm speaking with Daniel Wang from LIDD Consultants. Daniel, tell me a little bit about what LIDD does.
So we're a supply chain consulting firm with a few couple different verticals. One, just what we consider our traditional consulting, which is more for warehouse design. This is the background I came primarily out of, which is a lot of operations design. So everything within the four walls of the facility, understanding, how you should be laying out your different material handling equipment, how you should be running it, how you should be sequencing both tasks as well as product, and then looking even further out, which would be things like a network study, looking at different distribution centers and understanding where your customer base is and how you can best set up your supply chain to service them. A technology's perspective, that's where we have our technology arm. We do a lot of software implementation. We have ERP, WMS implementations, as well as a team doing Salesforce and a few other as well. And this generally is going to be for small to medium-sized businesses looking to implement software such as Solo Chain, NetSuite, Business Central, and other things within the Microsoft space.
Particular business sectors that you work in?
Yeah, so most of our clients would be food and beverage, and that's where we got our start from. We work with a lot of food and beverage companies in warehouse design, generally because there's more of a need towards cutting costs for operations there, right? And it's also a more complex environment. You're dealing with multiple different temperature zones, things like expiry dates, lot tracking, and so that's usually where I think people need a little bit more help. Since then, I think the other half of our clients go through across a wide range. We have a lot of apparel companies, a lot of a few manufacturers here and there as well, but it's more of a hodgepodge.
Are you dealing with the physical systems as well in the warehouses, like automated uh, retrieval systems and robotics?
Yeah, absolutely. We recommend different levels of automation for our clients all the time. That's part of our operations design solution. Generally, we will look at different levels of automation for different aspects of the operation, and we'll help them guide them on making the best business decision for them. Just because an ASRS works for one company doesn't necessarily mean it works for the same companies in a different operation or a different space.
And how did you get involved in this work? What is your personal background?
My personal background is in mechanical engineering, and my past experiences have been in aerospace. I got interested in operations and consulting, I think, throughout school, and then I got picked up by a company, I think, once I exited college. And so I was presented with the opportunity to help them open up their LA office right out of school, which sounded like a fantastic and quite frankly the most interesting opportunity. And so I've been here ever since.
Great. What do you like best about your job? What aspect of the work you do with your clients is the most fulfilling to you?
I think it comes it's a problem solving, really. I think working with them to better understand their operations and how to improve things such as efficiency and just make the right strategic decisions. One of the key mantras in our company is that capital is precious, and we want to make sure that if they're deploying capital, we're doing it wisely and judiciously. A lot of times the clients will come to us and say, hey, we want the new shiny ASRS, and then we'll take them through the steps and say, look, this is a really cool piece of equipment, but not everyone needs sort of a Cadillac when, a Toyota Camry would do. And a key piece of analysis generally is okay, we'll take your existing operations, use only conventional equipment, right? So much cheaper, easier to access, and see how far we can push it. And then we'll show you what the delta between that and the fully automated solution would be, and probably a few options in between. And that sliding scale, along with other business decisions or variables, right, help dictate which would be the best option for them.
And are you able to stay involved in the project from the front end consulting and design work all the way through implementation?
Absolutely. I think that's probably one of our strengths to do the initial design consulting piece, and we'll take it all the way through implementation. And so I think there was one project we did a couple years back for John Deere parts distributor. We did a full warehouse design for them. We were in the facility with them for about a few months, just making sure that just managing the team there, to make sure that and all the vendors, to make sure that all the equipment and was installed correctly. And we were able to actually help them back channel like one of the setup pieces too. So they were implementing um, a vertical lift module, which if you don't know what that is, it's pretty cool. You have this tower with all these different trays. We can set up different, I guess, dividers in between. And these things were all laser guided. According to the manufacturer lease, it would take about 2 to 3 months to properly load these machines and get it calibrated. And we're able to do that, to do 3 machines within the span of a few weeks, because we're working with their engineering team and trying to figure out a way to batch that knowledge.
That's impressive. So it must be very fulfilling to see the actual end result and to see it in production and to see
Absolutely.
how it's making a difference for the client.
Yes.
What are you most excited about in terms of technology? Are you seeing application of AI in the work that you're doing?
Yes, I think it's something we've been actively discussing internally. There's quite a bit of interest. I think for us at least, AI isn't quite where I think it needs to be in order for it to be directly applicable to a lot of operations yet. We see a lot of exciting developments, right, and interesting things, but from my experience, I've seen technology sort of lag in the operations space. The operations space is fairly practical and cost conscious, which generally means that they want to always be the first to adopt the latest technologies. We tend to wait until technology is a little bit more mature, more accessible, and then that's when we'll see more benefits from it. But the most exciting parts to me about AI is just the ability to consume multiple different forms of information and make decisions based on that. And so a lot of some warehouses at least have cameras everywhere. And so being able to consume things such as video feeds and make decisions and action out of that would be fantastic. The other thing that's probably the most interesting to us would be ability to make decisions of statistical probabilities versus discrete events or triggers.
So can you dive into that a little more for us?
Yeah, so I think in a warehousing situation, just because something is coming in a case doesn't necessarily mean that it's always going to be correct, right? Or it's going to be one or the other, right? You can have many different things look fairly similar, but being able to read the barcode as well as the information on each of the tags is pretty important. So this is fairly common in apparel, where you could have mixed cases. In this case, it's pretty hard, I think, for existing technology to work with that, because I could have one case with 2 or 3 different products with multiple different sizes and units, or I can have a full case over here and there's no standardization there. Being able to leverage multiple different things, such as additional camera feeds, and make decisions on that allows us to read that label and record that information much more quickly.
The systems that you're implementing for your customers, do you think they're doing development in that direction?
Absolutely. I think most of the major software companies are trying to integrate AI into some form of the product. We are seeing, for example, Microsoft, right, is very bullish on Copilot, and we're seeing that in really all their products.
Right. And how about LIDD specifically? Are you growing as a company? Are you seeing growing demand for what you do?
Yeah, absolutely. I think without sharing too much, we've been growing at a fairly consistent rate each year. And so we haven't seen any sort of shrink or stabilization in that growth rate yet.
And are your customers US based, international? What's your mix?
It's mostly going to be a mix of Canada and US. I don't have exact percentages off the top of my head, but I would say probably a little bit more favored towards the US just because of the population there. But we've done projects all over the world. I know we've done some in the UK. We had quite a few in Korea for a bit as well, and other parts of Asia too.
Very exciting work that you do.
Absolutely.
Any thoughts for anyone who's thinking about getting into the consulting space? What are the attributes that you think are really important for a consultant? What makes you successful?
Oh, I don't know about about what makes me successful, but in terms of what makes a consultant successful, I think it's the ability to think critically and the ability to communicate effectively. These are really just the 2 things I think you would need. Well, the 2 most important things you would need, and that's usually what we're looking for. A lot of times we find we come across students who are excellent on paper, as in formal in school, but they lack the ability to think critically. They're really good at executing, which is sufficient, I think, for maybe the base consultant role. But in order for you to progress in your career as a consultant, you really need to be able to solve difficult problems that you haven't seen before.
And how do people get that experience?
I think it's with just a lot of practice, forcing yourself. If you're talking from a school context, you do extracurriculars which are outside the classroom. Common one I know a lot of people do, which is with case competition. These cases force you to actively solve a different problem than you would a different problem set that you would normally be exposed to in the classroom.
Great. Any other concluding thoughts about the industry or about technology and where it's going?
I think we're at a fairly exciting time. I think everyone is aware that AI is going to be a fairly impactful development in technology. My thoughts are that public opinion is a little bit off on it. It is overestimating how much it will do in the short term and underestimating how long it will take. I think that the impact won't be significant, but it will take longer than people expect. If we think through the mobile phone, like the smartphone, that was launched quite a while ago by Jobs, and it took a while before the markets and consumers adapted the behavior to it. But now we live in a world where I would argue that maybe the mobile platform is more important than maybe the desktop version, especially when it comes to consumer-facing products. So keeping that in mind and understanding that AI is going to be a pretty revolutionary technology, or is a pretty revolutionary technology, and just keeping in mind that we're not really going to be looking the next 2-3 years for big changes, but the next 5 to 10 years is when things will shift.
So we're kind of in the beginning of the hype curve, if you will,
That's what I'm feeling, yeah.
and where things settle out and where the changes will be, how things will be evolved is yet to be seen.
Yeah, because I think people tend to react to technology in extremes, make changes in extremes, and it's just finding that center and understanding where the pattern is going.
Well, Daniel, it was a pleasure talking to you today. I wish you all the best, you and LIDD Consultants, in your work going forward, and I look forward to talking to you again.
All right. Thank you, Jenny. It was a pleasure.